man, Woody likes the crooked cock.
That's how they get you.
Growing up,
Yes.
like my dad grew up super poor, so a lot of like his like favorite foods are like poor slave food. So like he loves cornbread and milk, which is like the poorest of the poor things. It's what you do when like you have nothing. He likes.
Does he like fried bologna sandwiches?
Oh yeah, like yeah, absolutely. Or
Your
just
dad and my grandparents would get along swimmingly
because they grew up like barely able to like feed themselves, like all sorts of like preserves and stuff like that, and canned vegetables and shit. But pintos and cornbread. So it's literally just like pinto beans and cornbread like mixed together with like chopped raw onions in there, and I love that shit. Like I ate that growing. Like there would be my mouth's watering. Some families would have like, oh, it's pork chop night, but every now and then my mom would be like, you guys want pinto beans? And we'd be like, yes, oh yes, because like I would just have this big bowl of pinto beans with like crumbled up cornbread in it that she would also make, and I chop the raw onions up in there, and you know that Texas Pete stuff that's clear with little green peppers, that like pepper sauce. I dump so much of that sour, spicy shit in there and just eat. I would make myself very sick. I would eat so much of that.
I've never had that, but I remember like thinking that fried bologna sandwiches were gross when my grandpa was making one when I was 7, and then I ate one, and it was. I didn't know bologna could be so good because I don't.
Yeah, it's good when you fry it. Like it's just. I just think bologna as a product is kind of gross. But yeah, that shit's really fucking good. And but yeah, like and ham hocks. When I make pinto beans, I haven't in a while. But last year, one of the things I made when I got out of prison. Because I made this big list of foods that I missed was like southern pinto beans, and you take a couple of whole ham hocks, and which is like a pig's knees, and you throw them into the bowl of pintos, and they boil for 3.5-4 hours. So like by the time you're done, the ham hock is just like giving up all of its delicious salty pork flavor to the beans. It's really. I'm
surprised your dad wasn't into like fried chicken liver. Even I love fried chicken liver.
No, I've never heard of him even eating that. I don't think they could afford chicken.
Oh, yeah. When my grandparents were little, I remember like my grandparents when I was little, they would tell me a story about how excited they both were. They were at different ages, obviously, but like when they got running water instead of having to use an outhouse.
Yeah.
And it was like I think my grandma was like 16 when they got like indoor plumbing, and she's like, and we just felt like we were the Queen of England in there. Oh, you need to go to the bathroom middle of the night? Well, you don't need to go out there and check for raccoons and rattlesnakes. You just go pee in the house.
My family was poor and Jackie's parents were, but it was a different thing. Like, of course, they always had running water. They're city people. They had running water from the start, but they didn't have warm water. They only had cold water flat, stuff like that. And it was like a mark of shame, though. Like other people had hot water, and they didn't want them to know that there was no hot water where they lived. Like that was the vibe.
Yeah, they never had hot water. My grandpa and grandma would tell me it was my grandma. She would be like, the way they had to bathe was they had like a big tin bathtub, and they would have to like go to the spigot and get buckets of water and like fill it up slowly. And by the time it's all full, it's already coming from a spigot. It's not hot, but it's like actively cold now, and you have to sit there in the yard cleaning yourself. And she was like, and I was the oldest, and so that meant I got to go first, and then my 2 sisters afterward would get to go after me, but we use the same water because I'm not walking back to that spigot 16 times. And it's like, that fucking sucks.
Yeah,
that blows.
Yeah.
We are so lucky.
They had showers, cold water showers.
But if you think about it, these people that we're talking about right now, eating cornbread and beans and with their cold running water or their buckets of water they could go out and get, are light years ahead of the people who came before them, who didn't have any of those wonderful things. They're like, y'all got beans? What is that thing you have there with the water in it? This is a bucket. Dude, you know how hard it is to get water back home in a wicker basket? You got to be quick.
My grandpa's family, they kept a ton of photos throughout, like
wicker basket.
From like you got to run. Like my grandpa's family, like they have photos going back to like the point that they could like afford to get their photo taken.
Yeah.
And so like there are some, like it's pictures like me and my brothers and all of us goofing around and like their family and then like older generations. And there's one of like my grandpa's grandpa, like on next to like a horse and wagon, like, and he's like, yeah, and he was sometimes they would get involved in a little bit of, ruffianism, as they called it, but mostly they would, help volunteer to build railroads. And so they would take that buggy over there and they'd have.
I ended on that note. I love the
That was
wordplay.
the best
Very
shit
nice.
I've ever heard.